All right, good morning, Methodical Man here. We are going to be going over the 5 minute gap strategy after 10 a.m. this morning. Just doing a review for last week. The video is coming out, actually, the 15-minute came out a day late, but we're going to post both today since we didn't get to get them in yesterday. I was traveling, and we had college football, so I didn't get to make the review videos. So let's kind of go over what the 5 minute gap strategy after 10 a.m. is. Basically, you're looking for the first gap on the 5 minute chart after 10 a.m. to form. And what is a gap? Well, it's a 3 candle setup. For example, this would be candle 1. This would be candle 3. If there is a gap between the high of candle 1 and the low of candle 3, then that would be your entry point. If it's a bullish gap, you would take an entry long. If it's a bearish gap, you would take an entry short. And you would use a simple fixed 2-to-1 risk to reward. So, for example, that would be the gap. That's not the gap we're using. That's just me giving you an example of a gap there. Let's check out the strategy and see how it's doing through 7 weeks so far. Last week, we actually had our worst week. We lost $2,860. We are still green over the previous 7 weeks, $8,865, averaging a total of $1,266 per week going into week 8. So let's go ahead and check out week 8 and see how we fared. Let's get these things marked out here so we can write them down. So let's take a look on Monday and see if we can locate a gap. So here's our 10 a.m. candle here. So we're just looking, are there any gaps in here? And if no gap forms by 11 a.m., then we just don't have an entry. So here's 10:55, no gap. 11 o'clock, no gap. So what that means is Monday was a no trade. And I guess you could say, well, I mean, it's not that bad, right? We had 2 no trade days last week, though, so you kind of would expect this week to be a bit better. But there we are on Monday. Keep it simple, no trade. Unfortunate. I prefer to get the trades, win or loser. I'd like to have the trades. If you guys are interested in trading futures, we do have the 90% off sale still going on right now through APEX and Bulenox. Links in the description below with the coupon code for them. If you're interested, that does help the channel. Does end, I think, on the 7th of November, so you got about a week left for that. So here's our 10 a.m. Tuesday candle. Let's see if we can find any gaps in here. Nothing so far. No gap there, no gap there. And we're just simply looking for a gap here. No gap here. It was close, but there's no gap. No gap there. So now we just crossed over 11 a.m. So unfortunately, Tuesday, kind of the same deal. No trade. No money to be made, no money to be lost on Tuesday. Now in our forward testing, or our back testing, this strategy did run at about 50%. And we have been front running that number a bit over the first 7 weeks. I think right now we are exactly at 52% on the win rate the last time I checked it. So it's still running a little better than expected. So let's find our 10 a.m. candle right here. So let's just look and see, do we have any gaps between 10 and 11? No gap there. Okay, right here. Let's kind of make it a little bigger so it's easier to see. We can see that there is a small gap there. Let's go ahead and mark it out. Excuse me. So right here, it's not a huge gap, but there is a gap there. So in this particular instance, we would be taking a short because that's what this 3-candle setup has for us here. So we'd be taking a short here. Our stop would be at the top of candle number 1. So right there. So we'd be risking 44 handles for 88 handles. Now we don't even really have to mark this out. We'll just do it for effect there. So we can see, did we get tagged in? Yes, this green candle here tagged us in. And the next red candle tagged us out. So on Wednesday, we lost 44 handles. So not great. You don't want to start off the week with 2 no trades and a loser, but that's what we got here. Let's move on into Thursday and see what type of action we get. Let's see here. Let's find our 10 o'clock handle. Or a candle, not handle. I'm talking about there. All right, so here's 10 a.m. Let's start looking for a gap. No gap, no gap, no gap. No gap there because the wick. And then right here, we get a gap. 1040 candle. So let's go ahead and mark that out. You can see between the high of candle 1 and the low of candle 3 there. So we got a bullish gap, so we're going to take a long here. A long it is. Let's go ahead and put our stop in right at the bottom of candle number 1. So we can see here, this is one of those situations where it's a little bit frustrating because, you know, price moved up without us. It didn't go to the target, you know, because target would be way up here. But it went probably halfway and then came back, tagged us in, and then just stopped us out. So we risked 49 handles on Thursday, and we lost all 49 handles. So starting off the week, 0 for 2 there. Not a great look. So what that means is Friday is going to make or break the week. We need Friday to be a winner. Otherwise, we are going to be in the red again for the second straight week on this strategy. Now, we did have, obviously 6 weeks in a row of green, and that's pretty. You're front running the strategy there at 6 weeks in a row of green. That's odd for that to happen. So here's the 10 o'clock candle. So let's just look for any gaps here. All right, right here at 10:35, we get a bearish gap. Let's mark it out. It's not a huge gap by any means, but it is a gap. And if it's a gap, we take it. So in this case, we would be taking a short. Short entry would be right there. Stop is going to be at the top of candle number 2 in this scenario because candle number 1 is the stop is shorter than candle number 2. So in that scenario, you put the stop at the top of candle number 2. Now we don't really have to even mark this out because this is pretty clear. Do we get tagged in? Yes, gap is formed. Price comes back, tags us in, quickly tags us out. So we lose 45 handles. Now you can see the average risk is somewhere in between that 40 and 50 handles. So last week we had 2 no trade days, and then we had 3 days where we lost. Now, if you guys notice a pattern here, on weeks where we have no trade days, those days are typically the days that you would have winners. If you go back and look at the no trade days, if there would have been a gap formed, you probably would have had a winner on those days. So it's tough to endure those, but it's all a part of the process. So this week we lost $2,760. So if we take the $8,865 and we minus $2,760, we are still in the profit for $6,105 total. And we're going to divide that by 8 weeks. And that's going to be an average of $763 per week so far. Now, if we take those 3 losing days, that is going to put our winning percentage at 49%, which is pretty much right where the back testing had us at. One of the things that I will tell you guys with this strategy, and this is what I was saying in the live stream last week, is, you can't just jump into this strategy and think it's going to be a winner right away. You can't jump in and say, oh, well, I had a couple of losing weeks, right? Because the first 6 weeks, everything was all, whatever you want to call it, rainbow and sunshine, whatever you want to call it. So I signed up, I opened a cash account. You guys can see here, I put $4,000 in there. Only been using it the last 2 weeks, and these have been the 2 worst performing weeks for the strategy since I started. So I'm down $1,039 over those 2 weeks. But am I going to panic and stop using the strategy? The answer is no, because it's showing us that even though we've had 2 losing weeks in a row, it's still running at the same percentages that we expected it to run at. Is it bad luck that I jumped in with the cash account the last 2 weeks when the first 6 weeks were up so much? Maybe. But just got to trust the strategy, and I do trust the strategy. Obviously, I'm using real money to trade this account. So that should tell you that I believe in the strategy. So we're just going to continue to move forward and trust that the numbers are going to hold right there at around 50%. And we just need a couple of winners next week, and we'll be back in the green. So once again, if you guys haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. We are looking to push into 1,000 subscribers, currently at about 400. We are live 5 days a week, so if you want to see the strategy traded live, join us 9:15 a.m. for the London or the New York session, that is. And we'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching.